Hello, hello, hello. Morning, AJ. Good morning. Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good, thanks. All right, good morning. So hopefully I see some of you turned in your assignment from yesterday. You have until tonight to do it, the mini project. So, but make sure you do it. And remember, each person turns in their own. This was just a funny picture, I thought. We're going to talk about the normal distribution, as you could tell from your mini lesson, but so it says normal distribution versus a paranormal distribution. That's not mathy. The normal distribution is, but the paranormal part is not. So, we share Wednesday. Anything going well for anyone? Anything going bad for anyone? Anyone have anything to look forward to?
My mom's at Disney World.
Oh, your mom's at Disney World? Why aren't you, AJ?
I don't like flying.
Oh, okay. I don't like flying either,
Planes are death
but
tubes.
I decided that a long time ago that I wasn't going to let my fear of flying stop me from doing anything I wanted. So, and your car is a death tube, if anything is a death tube, let me tell you. Did anyone else in your family go? Or just your mom? I don't know what happened, AJ. It says you're talking, but I can't hear you now. Weird. Uh-oh, I think AJ's audio disconnected. We can still see you, we just can't hear you. Anybody else doing anything fun? Olivia, what's going on with you?
I don't have anything going on. I went to Utah to snowboard last weekend.
Ooh, nice. Was it good snowboarding?
Yeah, it was really good.
That's awesome. Anyone else? Oh, we got a new pet. Is that the puppy I've been seeing? Nice. Cute. Puppies are great, but they're like having a baby. Like they're exhausting. Yeah. I don't need another puppy. Okay, AJ, I see your mom and your sisters. Oh my gosh, look at that puppy. So cute. Very nice. All right, anyone else got anything going on? I'm going on a hike Friday morning. That'll be fun. Nothing else. Everybody's looking forward to the test coming up. I'm sure. I know. I see it on your faces. You're very excited. Anyone doing anything on spring break? It's not yet. Don't think spring break's yet. Almost. Almost, but not yet. Anyone doing anything over spring break? Nope. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing either. Probably working. Like I have a bunch of reports to write. Super fun. Okay, so here's the test info. Tomorrow and Monday, we're going to be going over S6. Tuesday, we're going to be doing a review day. Your test review is due next Tuesday. And then Wednesday, March 3rd is the test. Okay? So that's what your next few days look like. I did publish the statistics review. It's the last thing in this module. So if you go down to the modules, you can start on the statistics review whenever. You'll recognize some of the stuff from the very beginning of the module. What you won't be able to do is the very, very end. Okay. After tomorrow, you'll be able to pretty much do it all. But then I just will clear things up on Monday. So any questions on what our next few days look like or what the test looks like? No, you're just all so excited. All right. So how are you going to take your test? You're going to take your test through Lockdown Browser. Okay. Has anyone taken a test in Lockdown Browser before? No. Oh, Valerie, Malachi, Amari has. Okay. Oh, and Angelina. Okay. So a few of you know how to do it. Others of you don't. I have a whole thing on info on taking our proctored test. And then we have a practice Lockdown Browser that's due on Sunday night. Okay, so the practice is going to help you. You're going to go through that info, and then you're going to make sure you download Respondus. You can't be on a Chromebook, and then you're going to test it. So there's 3 questions on the quiz. Make sure you do them just like it's the real quiz. So you can, like when I say check these websites and make sure they work, check them, make sure they work. Okay, and then make sure you type in the answers and those kind of things. Your test is going to open at 9 a.m. You do not log into Canvas on test day. Okay, I mean, sorry, you don't log into Zoom on test day. You'll log into Canvas on test day because you won't be able to be on Zoom, right? So you'll log into the test. It will open at 9. So I'm going to say get ready before 9. So right at 9, it opens. It's timed. It's only giving you 60 minutes to complete the test. Okay, so at 10 o'clock, it's going to shut off. So if you don't start till 9:05, you only have 55 minutes to take the test. If you don't start till 9:15, you only have 45 minutes to take the test. So don't be late to the test, right? Then at 10 o'clock, after it shuts off, now some of you might be done early, right? As soon as you're done, upload your written work within 15 minutes of completing the test. Okay? And it's a separate assignment on Canvas. Okay, if you have any technical difficulties, I'm going to be on Zoom. Okay, I'll just be sitting here waiting for anyone who has technical difficulties. Sometimes people, when they finish, like to log on to Zoom and go, I finished. Did it work okay? Is everybody good? So, and I can check that. So I can monitor you. I can see when you start the test, and I can see when you submit the test. And that goes for every single person. Okay? Any questions about the test? I know the test isn't for a week, but I want to ease our anxieties by talking about it now. All right. We're the Respondus. This talks about how you do it. And remember, I have the info on taking the test, and then you have the practice test. You also have a statistics review. So we're trying to check technology before it's test time. That's what we're trying to do. You're going to do the review, and it counts as a grade. I'm going to give you the key so you can check for accuracy, but I'm not going to give you the key right away, because if I give you the key right away, guess what you do? You pretend study instead of really study. So you're going to do the review. If you have it done by the time we come to class on Tuesday, during Tuesday's class, we'll go over any questions that you need help on, and you'll have the key so you can check it. Then you can spend Tuesday night practicing and studying for the test, and then Wednesday you'll be all ready for the test. Okay, so but your studying should start about now, a week before the test. Staying up all night before the test is not an effective study method, just in case you think it is. And I know there's somebody out here who says, works for me, that's what I'm going to do. I promise you it does not work all the time. So don't set yourself up like that. Okay. Okay. Let's talk the normal distribution. Here's some important things you should know about the normal distribution, especially after you did your mini lesson. So the distribution is a symmetric distribution with a single peak. So it's bell-shaped. Remember when we talked about describing distributions by their socks? So that's the shape. A normal distribution is bell-shaped. This is really important. That's why I highlighted it. If it says the distribution is normal, that means that the mean, the median, and the mode are all the same. So if it tells you the mean is 10, and it tells you it's a normal distribution, and then it says, what's the median? You know the median is 10, because when it said it was a normal distribution, it's telling you that the mean, median, and mode are all the same. Okay? Since it's symmetric, the mean, median, and mode are right in the middle that cut that bell shape in half. So 50% of the data is below the mean, 50% of the data is above the mean, with 100% of the data under the curve. Data values that are far from the mean are rare, and you'll see that in our picture. It's really important that you know that these tapering tails don't ever touch the horizontal axis. They get close, but they never touch it. And then almost all of the area under a normal distribution curve is within 3 standard deviations of the mean. Now we know what a standard deviation is. So if we go 3 standard deviations above and below the mean, we have almost all of our data. Any questions on those things before we talk about the empirical rule? All right. So here's the empirical rule. Sometimes people call it the 68, 95, 99.7 rule. And what it's telling you is, here's our normal distribution, that bell-shaped curve. And do you see how right here it shows you, change to this yellow, right here it says +1 and it has a sigma symbol, and it says -1 and a sigma symbol. Remember that sigma symbol means standard deviation. Okay, so when you see that symbol, that is standard deviation. So in this first graph, when it says take the mean and add 1 standard deviation to it, and take the mean and subtract 1 standard deviation to it, then that blue area that's under the curve between subtracting 1 standard deviation and adding 1 standard deviation, 68% of our data is right there. So if you apply it to your mini project you did yesterday, you found the average age of the baseball players on the team. Let's pretend it was a normal distribution. It probably wasn't, but let's pretend it was. Then if you do 1 standard deviation, whatever you calculated that to be, if you took 30 and added 1 standard deviation and took 30 and subtracted 1 standard deviation, then most of the ages, 68% of the ages would fall in that range. So that's within 1 standard deviation. Then notice the second one, it goes out further. Now it's 2 standard deviations above and below the mean. And look how much more data is under that curve. Now we have 95% of our data under that curve. Okay, so within 2 standard deviations, we have 95% of our data. And then this is what it was talking about when it says almost all the data is within 3 standard deviations. Notice it's 99.7% of the data is within 3 standard deviations. So if the area under this curve is a total of 100%, and we subtract off that 99.7%, how much data is outside of that blue area shaded on that last graph? Oh, we'll just get our answer ready in the chat. How about that? Put your answer in the chat. You don't have to hit enter until I say go, but calculate that. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Very nice. Excellent. It was 0.3, and there should be a percent on there, right? Good. A lot of you put that percent symbol. So what that's saying is, if I took that 0.3% and I divided it by 2, that would give me 0.15%, right? Do you agree? If I take 0.3% and divide it by 2? So what that's saying is, way down here in this little spot here, under this curve, and way over here under this curve right here, there's 0.15%. You can't even see it. That's a really, really small percentage. So it's very, very rare. Does that make sense? Okay. So this rule applies, the empirical rule applies to all normal distributions, no matter what, all normal distributions. If it's a normal distribution, the mean, median, and mode are all the same, and it would have this rule, 68, 95, 99.7. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. It says that x, the variable x is normally, distributed. The mean is 3, the standard deviation is 1. And it says between what x values does 95% of the data lie? So I put the percentages on this normal curve, right? You can see that 95% is between this line and this line. Okay, so before we answer the question, let's label the mean. So the mean is going to be right here in this middle. So what am I going to label the mean? What did it tell me it was? It actually said -3. Did you notice that? Yeah, it said -3. Thanks, Valerie. So -3 is right there. We don't know what this data is. They just told us that the mean was -3. So we're just going to go with it. Okay. Then the standard deviation is 1. So what number would I put right here, one space to the right of -3? Yeah, -2. I think Malachi was thinking it too. So you do -3 plus 1, and you can do it on your calculators, and you should get -2. If we keep going to the right, we're going to add another standard deviation of 1, and we're going to get -1 right here. Everybody okay? And then the next one, we would get 0. Does everybody see what I'm doing? I'm just adding one standard deviation, which happens to be 1 in this case, to every one of these data points. Okay, so I took our mean, I added 1 standard deviation, then I took that number, added another standard deviation, took that number and added another standard deviation. Let's fill out these values to the left. So instead of adding a standard deviation, we're going to subtract it. So we're going to take -3 minus 1. So this value would be -4. We're going to do it again. We would get -5. And we would do it again. And we would get -6. So everybody see how I labeled that, where I got those numbers from? Okay, so now in the chat, I want you to say, between what x values does 95% of the data lie? You should be able to tell by that picture. Okay, should be able to tell by that picture. Get your answer ready in the chat. Between what two x values does 95% of the data lie? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Very nice. Do you see why it's between these? Because we were going 2 standard deviations, because 95% of the data lies within 2 standard deviations. So here's our line for 2 standard deviations. So we would be going from -5 to -1. Okay. And this works every time if you want to think about how we're going to apply this to new problems. So now I have a handout for you that has these examples on it, because some of you I know like to just see the examples. So let me put that in the chat. This is not something you're going to turn in, but it's definitely something you're going to be sharing with me in your breakout rooms and things like that. But if you want to work on paper, that's totally fine. So now this is a survey administered to college students that shows the amount of sleep in hours in a 24-hour period. And they're saying that they found out it's normally distributed. And the mean is 7.5 hours. And a standard deviation is 1 3/4 hours, so 1.75 hours. And we want to answer these questions. What interval includes 68% of the data, 95% of the data, and 99.7% of the data? So the first thing you should do is try to label that normal curve, okay? So where do you write the information? So try that. I'll give you about a minute, and then I'm going to call on you guys and ask you what number you put in each one of those lines. We're not answering the questions yet. We're not answering these yet. Right now, we're just going to label this axis. So I'm looking for what number are you going to put here, 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 and here. I'll give you about a minute to think. So Jen Day said she can't see my screen where I'm labeling. I'm labeling at the bottom of the normal curve. Can you guys see that? Okay. It's also on the document that I sent you in the chat. We're labeling beneath the normal curve. All right. So first we'll take volunteers to answer, and then we'll take voluntold because sometimes you guys are a little quiet. So let's look right in the middle here. What would you put in this middle box right here?
7.5.
Very nice, Aaron. 7.5, 7.5, because that's the mean. Excellent. All right. Now, you might have had to do some math, right? You might have had to use your calculator to do that addition or subtraction for you. So what would go, let's go in the positive direction first. So let's go to the right. So what would you get for this box to the right of 7.5?
9.25.
Thank you, Amari. 9.25. Excellent. And then keep going. What would be in the next box?
11.
11. And then in the last box to the right.
12.75.
Nice, 12.75. Any questions on where we're getting those numbers? And Jen Day, can you see now where I'm labeling? Can you see me screen sharing? Are you on your phone? That's probably why. You probably have to swipe to a different screen to see it on your Zoom app. Okay, so let's go to the left. Okay, so let's start at our mean again, and let's go to the left. So what would be right here in this box?
5.75.
Nice, 5.75. And then one more box to the left. What would be in there?
4.
4. And then one more box to the left.
And then 2.25.
Very nice, 2.25. Now we're ready to answer the question, what is in 68% of the data, 95% of the data, 99.7? So in other words, what interval includes this? So what would you answer for the first one? 68% of the data would be between what two values?
Um, 5.75 and 9.25.
5.75 and 9.25. Does everybody agree with that? Because that's one standard deviation. So it would be here, between here and here. And so that is actually, the units on that is hours. So what they're saying is 68% of college students sleep between 5.75 and 9.25 hours in a 24-hour period. Okay, that's what that's saying. So how about when we go to 95% of the data? What would the interval be for 95% of the data? Good, Jen Day.
4 to 11.
From 4 hours to 11 hours. Is everybody seeing how we're reading this? Because now we're going within 2 standard deviations because it said 95% of the data. Does that seem reasonable? 95% of college students sleep between 4 and 11 hours in a 24-hour period? Probably. Okay. It's a pretty big span between 4 and 11 hours. Let's look at the last one. 99.7% of college students sleep between what interval? This-
2.25 and 12.75.
Yeah. 2.25 hours and 12.75 hours. That's pretty much including everyone, right? So very few college students sleep less than 2 hours or 2.25 hours, and very few sleep more than almost 13 hours. Does that seem reasonable? Yeah. Now, what's interesting is, where do you fall on this scale? Do you fall right at the mean, about 7.5 hours? Are you above the mean, where you sleep more than 7.5 hours in a 24-hour period? Or are you below the mean, where you sleep less than 7.5 hours in a 24-hour period? How many of you are below the mean? You sleep less than 7.5 hours. Dom and I and Ashley and Angelina. How many of you sleep more than 7.5 hours? A couple of you. Some of you are not responding. You don't know how much you sleep, or you're sleeping right now. I don't know. One of the two. Now, notice it didn't say that you had to sleep it all in a row. Some of you are nappers, right? Who's a napper out there? Tell me if you're a napper. Yeah. So some of you might not sleep it all at once at night. So you stay up real late. Maybe you stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then you sleep a little bit, maybe 4 hours. And then you get up for class, or you get up to do stuff. And then about 1, 2 p.m. is nap time. Right? And you sleep for a while. That might be part of the problem, by the way, why you're up in the middle of the night. I'm just saying, I'm not a napper. I wish I was. At like 20 minutes is my max nap. Yeah, because I think I feel worse. So it's kind of fun to see where you would fall on this scale. So does everybody understand how it's working? How a normal curve works? Excellent. This is what we just did, just the answers are nicer written. So look at the next one, test scores. This time it says the test scores are normally distributed with a mean of 120 and a standard deviation of 25. Now, we don't know what the test was out of. They didn't tell us that, right? Right? Maybe the test was out of 200. I don't know. But so see if you can label your normal curve and then answer these questions. Find a score that's 1 standard deviation above the mean, 2 standard deviations below the mean, 3 standard deviations above the mean, and then this one you'll have to think about a little more, 1.5 standard deviations below the mean. And this should all be on your worksheet as well. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that while we're in here, and then we'll go over those answers. So try those 4 questions, but I think the easiest thing to do is to label your normal curve first. You don't have to, but it can be helpful. So try that. And I'm going to call on people that I don't hear from, just so you know. Is everybody ready? Or you need a few more seconds? Oh, good. Everyone's ready. So if you don't normally volunteer, here's your chance before you get called on. So you know who you are. I often hear from Valerie, Aaron, Yesenia, Amari, and Malachi. Some of you I don't hear from. So now's your opportunity. Volunteer for the one you know. So the first one, what's a score that's one standard deviation above the mean? Angelina, what'd you get?
145.
How many of you agree with Angelina's 145? Valerie's giving you a thumbs up. Deshay, oh, nice. You got lots of thumbs up. Everybody okay? Any questions on where 145 came from? Now is your chance to ask. Everybody's got it. Okay, good. Next one. 2 standard deviations below the mean.
I put 70.
70. Does anyone agree with Olivia? Nice. You're getting lots of thumbs up too. Any questions on where Olivia got 70?
Yeah, where did she get that? I low-key got confused.
Okay, Olivia, can you explain where you got 70 from?
So I started with the mean, and to go down, I subtracted 25 from 120, our mean. So that was 95. And then I subtracted 25 from 95, which I got 70, which was the second standard deviation. And then the next one would have been 45.
Jenday, does that make sense? Where she got the 70? Okay.
Yeah,
If you label, Olivia, I'm guessing, did you label your normal curve first?
I labeled everything, yeah. So I went up 3 and then down 3.
Yeah, I think that helps. That starting point helps you. You know that the 120 goes in the middle because it's the mean, and then you went up from there, right? I won't put that last one in yet. So 3 standard deviations above the mean. Who's going to answer that one?
I got 195.
195. Is everybody okay with that? Do you agree? Nice. Valerie's quick with the thumbs up. Love it. I like AJ shaking his head. It helps me out to make sure you guys agree. Okay, now this last one was a little bit tricky because it was 1.5 standard deviations below the mean. Anyone up for that challenge? 1.5 standard deviations below the mean.
Is it 82 and a half?
Anyone agree with Angelina, 82.5? Oh, look at those thumbs up. Nice. You got lots of shaking heads. Angelina, can you explain how you got that 82.5?
So I labeled everything, and then from 95 to 70 was 25, so then I just did half of that and then subtracted that from 95, which is 12 and a half, and then 95 minus 12 and a half is 85, or 82 and a half.
Nice. So you took half of 25 because you knew there were 25 scores or 25 points in there, and you got 12.5. And then did you add 12.5 to 70, or did you subtract it from 95?
I
Just
subtracted
curious.
it from 95.
Okay. So you did 95 minus 12.5, and that gave you 82.5. Did anyone add it to 70? Did anyone take 70 plus 12.5? Malachi saying yeah. Jenday, what were you saying?
I thought adding the 1.5 was wrong, but it wasn't. Like that, I thought that was wrong because I didn't know you can subtract like how Angelina did. I didn't know you could do that as well.
Yeah, you can do either one. You just have to take 70 plus 12.5, which would give you that 82.5, or 95 minus 12.5, which would give you that 82.5. Did anyone do it differently? Because there's more than one way to do it. What'd you do, Malachi?
Just like how you do, like, you have, like, when you're trying to find a mean, so, and you have two numbers, so I just added them and then divided it by 2, like 70 and 95.
Ah, so you did 70 plus 95 divided by 2, like you do the mean, and you got 82.5. That's another way to do it. Good job, Malachi. Anyone else do it differently? No? I did this. I know I'm not you. That's why we shared all these ways. I did 1.5 times 25, because I knew 25 was 1 standard deviation and I wanted 1.5 standard deviation. And that gave me 37.5. And then I just took my mean of 120 and subtracted 37.5 from it and got 82.5. Doesn't matter. You can do it any way. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways to do it. There's lots of ways to do it. Okay. Any questions on this? You okay? All right. So you'll notice that you have a practice one now. So don't let this trick you, okay? Because it's not meant to trick you. It just looks a little bit different. If you look at your handout, this is on your handout, and I have it labeled for you. So we're talking about the weight of 9-ounce bags of chips. I don't know what it is with me and chips. Remember we did price of chips the other day? I don't know what the deal is with me and chips. Anyway, so it's approximately normal, and the mean is 9.12 ounces. Notice that they put 9.12 ounces right here in the middle, right, for the mean. And then it says the standard deviation is 0.15 ounces. So then we labeled all of these data points, just like we just did, right? So we took 9.12 plus 0.15 and got 9.27, and so on. So now it's asking you a different question. Instead of asking you between what two values it is, now it wants you to give the percentage of the bags that are there. So for example, I'll do the first one with you before I put you in your breakout room. The first one says between 8.97 and 9.27. So between these two values right here, so all of this, well, what percent of bags is in that area? What would you answer?
68%.
Very nice, 68%, because that's within 1 standard deviation. Now, some of these you're going to have to think a little, but I know you can do it. So on your handout, you have this problem, problem number 1. If you finish that before I bring you back, try problem number 2. Okay? So, and you can work with your teams, you can compare with your teams. The idea is for you to get them all done. Okay? But make sense of them. Don't, if you're in a room with somebody who seems to know more than you, don't just copy down their answers. Okay? Make sure you understand it, because it's not a group test. Okay? So you all have to understand it. So I'm going to give you a few minutes here to get started before you go in your room and compare your answers. Okay? So just start working on it right now.
I have a question. Are all of the answers either going to be 68, 95, or 99.7? Okay.
Nope. Nope. Good question, Olivia. Yeah, you're gonna have to do some math, right? All right, you've been thinking. Now I'm gonna let you talk to your teams, okay? So talk to your teams now. Maybe talking through it will help you. If you have a question for me, call me in your room, okay? We're almost all back. Not everybody finished. Some did. It's okay. And your exit ticket's real short today, so you'll be happy about that. It's not a standard deviation. I'm going to reveal the answers so you guys can see how you did, okay? All right, since we're running short on time, I'm revealing the answers to you so you can see how you did. If you didn't quite finish, it's okay. You can just review this later, okay? The ones that got a little bit harder were when you got down to I, J, K, and L, right? Those were a lot more difficult. And I'll tell you a little trick of what I did. I drew my line down the middle right here, and I found each one of these small sections. So since I knew from here to here was 68, I wrote 34% here and 34% here. Then I found what this section was. So I was like, okay, from here to here is 95. If I do 95 minus 68, I know I have 27. And then if I divide that in those two pieces, I have 13.5% here and 13.5% here. And then we already calculated, remember we had 0.15% here, 0.15% here. So you would just need to fill in these little boxes and then you would be able to answer all of them, I think. Okay, so that's a little helpful hint for you. You can review these slides. They'll be on Canvas after class. Don't forget your mini lesson for S6 is due tonight. You have a reading quiz due tonight. You also have your mini project if you haven't turned it in. Your practice for this section is due tomorrow night. And then don't forget you have a test coming up. I will put this exit ticket in the chat. It should be real quick, okay? So have a great day. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'll see you in class tomorrow. Don't forget to turn in your mini project. It counts as a quiz.